This is going to be a brutally honest MMO tier list. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my rankings. I've made some big changes to the tier list this year based on the decisions of the developers over the last year as we head into 2026. First up, we've got WoW Classic. The last year for WoW Classic has been a quiet one, but that's likely because it's the calm before the storm. Updates have stopped for Season of Discovery and Blizzard has gone quiet, apparently because they have their heads down and are working hard to release the next big version of WoW Classic. I'm hoping this is basically going to be old school WoW. In other words, a version of Classic WoW that forks from retail entirely and continues to get its own content and its own expansions that stay true to WoW Classic. WoW Classic initially launched in 2019, and its massive appeal comes from the simple fact that it's a classic take on the MMO experience. Minimal cash shop, gear is earned in-game, weapon cosmetics are earned in-game, mounts are earned in-game. Frankly, it's everything I could hope for in an MMO, and something none of the new MMOs are willing to deliver, which is why new MMOs fail, where WoW Classic will continue to succeed. So I'm gonna put WoW Classic in A tier. There's one big problem with Classic. All your progress is inevitably gonna be wiped when they refresh the servers yet again. But when they do finally release Old School WoW or WoW Classic Plus or whatever they end up calling it, I have no doubt I'm gonna put this legend back into S tier. Next up, we have AION, which was conveniently named because that's exactly how long it took you to level up in this game.
Ha! Good one, Billy!
This is an interesting one because it does have a sequel that's going to be arriving soon. Its sequel is one of the few MMOs coming out in the near future. The only problem with this game's sequel is that it's planned to be a mobile PC cross-platform game.
What's that?
And we know what that means, mobile monetization. But as for the first AION, launched in the East in 2009 and in the West in 2010, this game saw a ton of success in Korea, but it just couldn't seem to retain its players here in the West, likely because of the fact that it takes so long to level. It went free to play in 2012, and with that change came pay for convenience and pay to win transactions. This game was actually very unique when it launched. It was gorgeous, and gliding around the zones was a ton of fun, but the grind that it asked of me was just a little bit too much for my taste. Unfortunately, today the game is now a shell of its former self, and might be fun to play for the nostalgia, but it's no longer the game that launched back in 2010, thanks to all of its over monetization. So for all of those reasons, we're going to put AION into the C tier. Next up, we have ALBION Online, a free-to-play PvP MMO. This one launched in 2017 and has done fairly well at growing and maintaining its player base. It's a classless MMO in which the gear you wear determines the abilities you'll use. It's got a massive passive tree to work your way through, and this is probably the best full loot PvP MMO available if you're looking for one. But you can walk up to the shop and buy the best gear in the game with cold, hard cash anytime you want. This kind of pay for power in PvP-centric games is just not it for me. But aside from that one caveat, it's actually a really solid entry, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it into B tier. Now, the next game on the list has hundreds of millions of players, making it one of the most popular games in the world, and now is probably the most exciting month in its history. That's because they partnered with 20th Century Games to bring the most dangerous hunters in the galaxy into the game. Now you'll be able to play as the Xenomorph, who can infest its enemies just like in the movies, allowing it to revive itself on the battlefield. The Predator has also come into the game with the ability to evade enemy skills before unleashing massive damage with its counterattacks. Players can get the legendary champion Xenomorph for free simply by logging into Raid for 7 days starting on November 24th. This is a limited time event, so start now. Players can also complete the Elite Champion Pass to get Predator. My favorite part about this game is that I can play it while I'm watching YouTube, Netflix, or literally any of the other games in this video. And now, with the iconic Alien and Predator crossover, it's better than ever. So click my link in the description or scan my QR code to get amazing bonuses only available via my link. Right now, you'll get 3 legendary champions and 2 free epics to help you get started on that Xenomorph, and instantly unlock Epic Zargala, and then at level 15 unlock Tagoar. Log in for 7 days to claim legendary Xenomorph and complete the Elite Champion Pass to get the legendary Champion Predator. And use one of these codes to unlock more. Personally, I would definitely pick Sun Wukong MONKEYKING due to his double S tier ranking, unique self-revive passive, and he's amazing at PvE content like Doom Tower. Come find my clan Vegeta Best Arc 8888. Shout out to Raid for sponsoring this segment. Thanks for listening. Let's get back to the video. As for ALBION Online, if you really enjoy PvP or if you're okay with pay to win, you might put it higher. And if you're not into PvP, you'll definitely put this game lower. Next up, we have an old school classic, ANARCHY Online. This game was made by Funcom, the same studio that released DUNE Awakening. Anarchy Online was released in June of 2001, and it was the first big sci-fi MMO. It was known for blending deep character progression, a player-driven economy, and endless expansions into a living universe. But today, it's in maintenance mode. The lights are on, but not many people are there. It could be fun to revisit for a week or two, but that's about it. And for that reason, I'm gonna go ahead and put this one into the C tier. Next up, we have ARCHEAGE. This was a game that was, in a lot of ways, better than it had any right to be, but it had some huge problems. ARCHEAGE launched in Korea in 2013 and in the West in 2014. ARCHEAGE is a sand park MMORPG that was known for featuring a massive explorable ocean, a crime and punishment system, a combo-based tab targeting system. It launched really well, but they completely failed to prevent cheaters, and then oftentimes the people that weren't cheating were multi-boxing and abusing the labor system. It was an MMO with so much wasted potential that it's part of the reason Ashes of Creation was created. The game is way past its prime now and pay to win, so for me, it's only good as a nostalgia trip for maybe a week. And for that reason, I'm gonna go ahead and toss this one into the C tier. Next up, we have ASHERON'S Call. This was actually one of the first 3D MMOs. Releasing all the way back in 1999, it wasn't as popular as EVERQUEST, but it still had a huge and loyal fan base. It had a massive, seamless open world half a decade before World of Warcraft would release. It could support massive amounts of players on screen at once, and it offered an impressive draw distance for the time. The servers kept their lights on for a long time. The game went free to play in 2014 before finally shutting down its official servers in 2017. You can still play the game on private servers, but it's definitely not getting any more updates, and you're not likely to encounter a lot of other players. Still, if you want to boot it up and take a brief trip down memory lane, the ability is there. But I think the trip would be very brief given the current state of the game, and for that reason, I'm gonna go ahead and toss this one into the C tier. Next up, we've got Black Desert Online. In the last year, this game felt like it took one step forward and then one step back. Released in 2015, and it's still one of the most beautiful MMOs out there. It's often praised for its combat and its graphics, with the primary downside of this MMO being the significant lack of group content for the players who enjoy that. Recently, expansions did add some PvE content for players looking for more to do outside of PvP in this game, and the monetization improved when the devs took back publishing rights, but lately it appears to be sliding again. Not to mention the fact that this game offers 3 different subscriptions that you can have all at the same time. The monetization is the one that's really holding this game back for me. Between the pay for power and the 3 different subscriptions, the best I'm going to be able to do is put this game into B tier. But I could easily see PvP players putting this one higher because frankly, they don't have a lot of other options. And if you're enjoying this video, be sure to do me a huge solid and like and subscribe to be kept up to date on the MMO genre. Thanks, now let's get to the next one. Next up, we have Blade & Soul, released in the West in 2016. In its prime, it was a solid game with great combat, although it was way too instance for my taste. There were too many small zones for it to feel like a true open world MMO. This game had more load screens than just about any other MMO I'd ever played. And the more load screens there are in a game, the less it feels like an MMO to me. The combat was great and the game was gorgeous in its time, but today it's probably best described as an almost dead pay-to-win MMO. And for all those reasons, we're going to toss this one into the C tier. Next up, we have a little bit of a disaster known as Bless Unleashed. Launched in 2020, and they keep remaking this one and re-releasing it, but it never survives. Is it the pay to win? Is it the lack of depth? Maybe it's all of the above. There just seems to be a lot missing from Bless Unleashed and its predecessors, and it might be time to make something entirely new. The game wasn't great, the monetization wasn't great, there just weren't a lot of positive things that were great or memorable about this game, and for those reasons we're going to put this one into the F tier. Next up, one of the newer games on this list is going to be Brighter Shores, released back in 2024. After its first year, it's already sitting down at as low as around 200 players on Steam. Surprisingly, this is made by the same guy who made RUNESCAPE, but it doesn't seem to quite have the same appeal yet. It launched into early access, and perhaps that's the problem. It was too early, judging by player retention. This game is a long way from being ready to release, perhaps too far. And for that reason, I'm going to be dropping it down from B tier to C tier this time. There's just not enough of a game here to make it worth choosing over its competitors. Next up, we have another one of the OGs, Dark Age of Camelot, released all the way back in 2001. This game was one of the pioneers of open world PvP done right in the MMO scene. Dark Age of Camelot left a mark on the MMO genre more visible than almost any other MMO today. Its tri-faction open-world siege warfare system was so popular that it was the foundation for PvP in massive MMOs like Elder Scrolls Online, Warhammer Online, and Guild Wars 2. You can still play DAOC today, and it still boasts a small but loyal player base. This one is a long way from its prime, and like I said, other games have come and done what it did, but better. And so for those reasons, the best I can do for this old dog is put it into the C tier. Next up, a superhero MMO, DC Universe Online. This one launched in 2011, and I have yet to personally get into superhero MMOs. I'm not sure why, but they've never called to me like a fantasy MMO or a sci-fi MMO. But I know a lot of people enjoy this game, and actually a good number of people still enjoy it today. Servers are up and running, and for all of those reasons, I'll go ahead and toss this one into C tier. It might be fun to revisit for a little bit, but I don't think it's getting enough content to be your main game in 2026. Next up, we have probably the newest MMO on this list, and that's going to be DUNE Awakening. DUNE Awakening launched back in June of 2025. I had a lot of fun with this game until work pulled me away from it for 1 week, and I came back to find out that my house and all my vehicles and everything that I had spent weeks collecting was gone. I'm not positive, but I think I failed to pay taxes or some such thing, and I had never played a game that took everything from you in one foul swoop like that, and I haven't booted it up since. It's a shame. I was having a good time until that point, but games that force you to periodically log in under the threat of everything you've earned being erased is kind of like being asked to play a game with a gun to your head. True to Funcom's form, the endgame was built around you wanting to log in and PvP, so if either of those things weren't your flavor, you probably haven't logged into the game for a while. Sadly for Funcom, this game now has less people playing it on Steam than their previous entry, Conan Exiles, which released in 2017. It's going to be interesting to follow this one over the next year and see if they can flesh out that endgame a bit more and improve player retention. I genuinely had a great time with this game until they released all of my progress while I was logged out for work, and it's still got loads of new content planned for it, so this is definitely a game you could log into and play for a while if it's your type of game. And for all of those reasons, I'm going to go ahead and toss this one into the B tier. Next up, another old game, Dungeons & Dragons, released back in 2006. This game was a true attempt at offering you the D&D experience in an MMO. It even had a D&D narrator narrating your journey as you make your way through the dungeons. The game does a lot right, but it also did at least that much wrong, especially in more recent times, namely the monetization. It's free to play, and so they've elected to monetize it in all the worst ways possible. Buy skills, yeah, you can do that. Buy levels, you bet you can. And if you didn't like the loot that the boss dropped, you can pay real money to re-roll it. All of that is just a massive turnoff to me. And it's too bad because there's a half-decent MMO experience under all of that somewhere. But it's hard to find between the neglect and the over-monetization. This one could be fun for a brief visit if you're willing to look past all of the horrible monetization. So I'll go ahead and put this one in the C tier out of respect for what it used to be. But it's not that anymore. Next up, an MMO that died as fast as it arrived, ELYON Online. This game launched pay to win, and unfortunately for it, it wasn't good enough for players to want to spend time in the world in spite of that. It launched in Unreal Engine 3 when modern MMOs were building in Unreal Engine 5 and the graphics were already dated at best. But the biggest problem for this game is that no one wanted to play it. The cash shop was full of create a problem to sell you the solution, and they didn't do a great job of disguising that. The combat was actually decent, and as always, I can't help but wonder what kind of success it might have had if it focused on creating a good experience instead of getting you to open your wallet. Unfortunately for ELYON, they didn't do that, and so the game was shut down in less than a year in the West. And then it shut down everywhere else in 2023. This MMO is a fantastic cautionary tale of what happens when you create a decent MMO and then make it way too pay to win. And for all of those reasons, we're going to go ahead and put this one into the F tier. Next up, another MMO that had a rough launch but managed to turn things around, and that's going to be Elder Scrolls Online. Launched in 2014, and then about a year later, removing the mandatory sub, ESO is a solid MMO and one of the better ones that you can play without a sub. But veterans will tell you inventory management is going to be pretty brutal without that sub. It's got incredible dungeons, amazing voice acting, and a lot of stuff you'll love from the Elder Scrolls franchise. The game features an action combat system, and its biggest strength is probably that ESO is one of the only MMOs that doesn't require a sub while also being one of the least pay-to-win MMOs on this list. Its biggest con is that all of the best cosmetics are tucked behind loot crates that you have to gamble for. So expect to spend upwards of $400 for that pretty mount that you want. Expensive cosmetics aside, if you're looking for lots of amazing bite-sized stories to get lost in, something that doesn't require subscription, and something that isn't pay to win, there's not a better option out there. And for all of those reasons, I'm going to toss Elder Scrolls Online into the A tier. Next up, we have EVE Online, probably the most successful space MMO on the list. EVE Online launched in 2023 and is a great game, still getting tons of support from its developers 2 decades after its launch. A couple of years ago, they overhauled the new player experience, drastically improving the first few hours of the game for new players. A lot of people absolutely love this game and have spent tons of time in it. And while I have thoroughly enjoyed my time in the game, it doesn't check a lot of the boxes that I personally want checked when I play an MMO. It is spaceships in space, which is amazing, but being that it lacks some of my favorite types of group content and questing, I'm gonna put this one into the B tier. And by the way, this one has the most expensive sub on the list at $20 a month, but that's still a fraction of the price of all 3 subs for Black Desert Online. So there's that. Next up, we have probably the most well-known of the original MMOs, and that's gonna be EverQuest. Launched back in 1999, this is one of the oldest MMOs, and surprisingly, this one still has a respectable population today. It's a classic. Before WoW, when no one knew what an MMO was, EverQuest was there, forging the path, and available on console. It was the king of the genre in its prime, but it's old now, and has long since handed over its crown. These days, it doesn't put out enough content to be my main MMO, but it could be fun to revisit for the nostalgia, and for those reasons, I'll go ahead and put this one into the C tier. Next up, the sequel to EverQuest, EverQuest 2. EverQuest 2 was supposed to be the next big MMO when it came out. At this point, World of Warcraft hadn't come out yet, so it was the successor to EverQuest, which was the most popular MMO at the time. It had everything going for it, but there were 2 massive problems. 1, World of Warcraft would release 2 weeks after it, and 2, its launch was a buggy mess. I don't think I was able to play this game for more than a week or 2 at launch, thanks to all of those bugs. So I would say that it's fair to say this one didn't fail because WoW came out, it failed because it just wasn't great. And it had some weird ideas like taking damage while crafting. People literally needed to pay a healer to keep them alive while they were at the forge. How's EQ2 doing today? Well, EverQuest 1 has more players than EverQuest 2, and I'd largely attribute this to the fact that EverQuest 2 has horrible monetization. For instance, you can pay real money to resurrect your character in place after you die, or you can pay real money to repair your gear, and that's just the tip of that disgusting iceberg. It wasn't a great game at launch, but it wasn't the worst game in the world either. And for all of those reasons, I'm gonna go ahead and put this one into the C tier. You might be able to go and enjoy it for a week or 2 today, if you can look past the monetization. Next up, we have Final Fantasy XI, which launched in 2002, about 2 years before WoW. Up until a year or 2 ago, this one was still getting content added to the game, but then it was added to maintenance mode. Servers have been kept up, but support moving forward has been very limited. When this game launched in 2002, it was brutal. If someone in the group accidentally pulled 1 extra mob, they had effectively cost the group hours of experience. The XP loss on death, the arduous journey back to your group's grinding spot. Final Fantasy XI was unforgiving and insanely fun back in its prime. Today, however, it's a lot more forgiving and a lot more casual and really nothing like it used to be. But its servers are still running and it still boasts a decent player base, but for the vast majority of players, it's long since been replaced by Final Fantasy XIV. The best part about this MMO is that unlike many old MMOs on this list, this one was kept alive without predatory monetization or adding in pay to win. It's still to this day a sub-to-play MMO with no cash shop. I wish we saw more MMOs age this gracefully, and that's probably why so many people still play it today. It's not getting new content anymore, but it's not pay to win, and all of the old content, which there is a lot of, is still there, and players are still there, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep this one in the B tier for 1 more year. Next up, we have one of the biggest MMOs on this list, and that is gonna be Final Fantasy XIV, which launched all the way back in 2010. Man, that was over 15 years ago now. By now, you probably know that this game had a horrific launch. It was so bad that they shut the game down for a while and then opened it back up to reboot it and try again. And fortunately for them, this bold strategy worked. Final Fantasy XIV is best known for its story. This is a game that puts the solo story way ahead of all of the other content. It does have a ton of multiplayer content, however. The trials are my favorite content in this game, You have bosses and stages transforming during each battle in a way that no other MMO today has been able to replicate. And each of these epic battles gets their own soundtrack. But that's not all that makes this MMO so good. It's actually one of the few MMOs that treats its players like people. There is no predatory monetization, no loot boxes, no pay to win, no creative problem to sell you the solution. The best mounts are earned in-game, the best cosmetics are earned in-game. However, I will concede the fact that the housing system in this game is a mess. But I'm not a housing main, so this never really affected me. In the housing system, you essentially have to win an auction to get your house, which is very difficult to do. And then you have to maintain your subscription, or else you'll lose that house that you spent loads of in-game currency obtaining. My favorite part of this game is that it doesn't have the cash shop in it. You have to leave the game and open a web browser to open the cash shop. Final Fantasy XIV watched as other MMOs over-monetize their games and chose not to. Its last expansion was massive, adding 2 new classes, and it's not showing any signs of slowing down, dropping another expansion here in 2026. Whether Final Fantasy XIV was your MMO or not, you have to admit, this game is doing a lot right, and most importantly, it treats its players the way that every MMO community wishes their developers would treat them. And for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and put this one into the S tier. Next up, we have Guild Wars 1, launched all the way back in 2005. Guild Wars 1 was a fantastic MMO in its day, no rigid classes. Instead, you picked a primary profession like Warrior and a secondary one like Necromancer, and then you picked abilities to create a tanky spellcaster or a melee healer. Your build was locked once you entered a combat zone, forcing thoughtful preparation. If you were a fan of this game way back when, it might be fun to revisit for nostalgia's sake. The servers are still up and running, and it holds up reasonably well despite its age, and with minimal pay to win. If this one had more people playing it and more new content, I could see myself slipping this one into B tier, but it doesn't, and so for that reason, we're going to add it to the C tier. Next up, one of the big MMOs still out there today, and that's going to be Guild Wars 2, released all the way back in 2012. Guild Wars 2 is definitely one of the most underrated MMOs out there. It's free to play, it's got a massive free trial which includes the entire base game with purchasable expansions, so it's incredibly affordable to try and to get into if you like it. Unfortunately for the monetization system in this game, that means all of the most exciting cosmetic progression is really rolled into the cash shop. But not all of it. It's got some legendary weapons that you can farm in-game that do look gorgeous. This game's mount system is by far the best of any MMO. It's got mounts that can fly, it's got mounts that can jump really high, it's got mounts that can go underwater, and as a result, it also has some of the best zone design I've experienced in any MMO ever. The solo content experience in this game is fantastic, but for me, the group content has just been okay. Guild Wars 2 is still adding annual expansions and still has a massive player base. If you're looking for an MMO without a subscription, Guild Wars 2 is tough to beat. This game is so close to being S tier for me, but it's hard to go from earning my mounts and my cosmetics in-game from raid bosses in games like Final Fantasy XIV and WoW to having to purchase them in the cash shop in a game like Guild Wars 2. And for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and slide Guild Wars 2 into the A tier. If you want to put it into the S tier, I totally respect that. Next up, we have Lineage 2, released in 2003. This was probably my first MMO addiction. Lineage 2 was an amazing game in its prime. It was a gorgeous subscription-based MMO with amazing castle sieges and raids, and I'm still looking for that PvP high that game gave me. Unfortunately, today it's a pay-to-win mess, a shell of its former self. So the best I could say about it today is that it could be fun to revisit for the nostalgia, but it's not getting updates anymore, and therefore it isn't a game I could main in 2026. So I'm gonna go ahead and toss this one into the C tier. Next up, we have Lord of the Rings Online, launched all the way back in 2007. This was a classic take on the classic tab target formula. For being a 2007 MMO, it doesn't look half bad today. I think the main reason it doesn't do better is that it doesn't seem to do anything better than all the other tab target MMOs out there, namely WoW. So I and others really didn't get into it at the time. Today, however, I think if you're looking for something different to try and you're burnt out on the biggest MMOs out right now, there are enough people playing this game to get into it and to have fun for a while. This old MMO still has people playing it, it's still getting updates, and it's reasonably monetized. And for those reasons, I'm gonna put it into the B tier. Next up, we have Lost Ark. Is this one an MMO? Is it a casino? Nobody knows. Launched in the West in 2022, Lost Ark was a fantastic game that I thoroughly enjoyed my time in. Unfortunately, that was until I hit the paywall, where you are eventually forced to buy materials from the cash shop or create alts to do the same dailies every day on every single alt just to farm the materials you need to progress at a reasonable pace. This meant it quickly felt like a job. This game had housing, sailing, great zone completion activities, amazing dungeons and raids, but the monetization model just wasn't it, and so the population seems to be struggling as of late. I had a lot of fun with this game at launch, and it's another game where if not for the monetization and the pay to win, I'd probably have been able to put this one into the A tier. But for me personally, those two things stopped it from being one of my all-time favorite MMOs. It was close, but the best I can do is put this one into the C tier. Next up, we have a unique one. It's Mortal Online 2. This launched in 2021 with full loot PvP. This game doesn't have a whole lot for you to do because it relies on you, the player, to find your own content when you get into the game, which can be a lot of fun if you're into that sort of thing. This worked well for Lineage 2, for example. I think if the combat wasn't so janky in this game, it would be more popular than it is, but because it's got this weird directional mouse swinging combat where you have to slide your mouse across your mouse pad in the direction you want your sword to go, it just all falls apart really fast for me. And probably for a lot of other people. That and the full loot PvP is a massive turnoff to most MMO players. Still, this is a fairly monetized MMO. It was almost a cool idea, but it just did some things that I'm never going to be able to get into, and so for those reasons, I'm going to put this one into the D tier. Next up, we have Neverwinter, which released back in 2013. This was another great addition to the MMO genre. Even by today's standards, it's still a decent game. But as oftentimes is the case with MMOs as they age, the monetization has gone full pay to win. At this point, the best I can say about it is there's a decent MMO in there somewhere still, and it's probably fun to revisit briefly, but the lack of new content and the current monetization model mean I could never make this my main MMO in 2026, and so I'm gonna go ahead and put this one into the C tier. This next one hurts. It hurts a lot. And that's going to be New World. Launched in 2021, but in October of 2025, Amazon announced its end of life. When Amazon dropped the news that they were going to stop supporting this game so that they could churn out smaller, cheaper AI slop, it was a punch to the gut. Why not first implement AI into New World's development process to streamline the development of assets, increase enemy variety, assist with creating new zones? It's also bizarre to me. New World was so close to being everything I wanted. It had a massive, open, seamless world. It had almost no pay to win. It had amazing professions and crafting. Every time I went back, it was better than the time before. And after playing it in the most recent Nighthaven expansion, I was going to be placing this game as high A tier, even teetering on the verge of S tier for me personally, because my experience in the Nighthaven expansion and all of the group content that they added to the game now was that good. But now where do I put it? It's a fun game, and while I was writing this, the servers were packed with a queue to get in weeks after the expansion released, which makes Amazon's decision just feel all the more out of touch. It's currently an A-tier MMO experience, but Amazon's announcement torpedoed the game and probably its population, and therefore its population size. Not because the game was bad, and certainly not because it was unpopular at the time of its announcement, but because Amazon corporate shot it in the heart. And this might be the most relevant example of why megacorps entering the games industry was probably the worst thing that ever happened to it. They will abandon an entire MMO that's aging like wine and its community the second they see the opportunity to use the next buzzword like AI in their next investor meeting. It's also tragic, and I totally recognize that AI is coming and we can't stop it. But I feel like we should be using AI to enable the devs that we have rather than using it to destroy them. So where do I put New World now? An incredible experience that just got announced its end of life in the most weird MMO journey that I've seen in all my years of watching, playing, and covering MMO, right? I was gonna put it into A tier, but they just announced that in 1 year, the servers might be gone. So really, the best I can do for this one is C tier. Not because it deserves it, but because corporate killed it. Here's hoping someone talks them into handing it off to another publisher. Next up, arguably the biggest MMO in the world right now, and that is old school RuneScape. RuneScape launched all the way back in 2001. It was a browser MMO that somehow became one of the most popular MMOs in history. RuneScape was a great game to many, so clearly it did a lot right. With millions of players still logging in, fair monetization, and still receiving sizable expansions today, this game has clearly won the hearts of lots of players. How did this happen? What does it owe its success to? I would say two things. One, the game has 0 microtransactions. You buy your subscription, the RuneScape bond, and that is it. 2, The community votes on everything that's added to the game. If the devs want to add something, they have to get the community to approve it first. This means nothing stupid is added, no dumb gear is added, no dumb content is added, and no dumb microtransactions are added. But like I always say when I look at old school RuneScape, why hasn't anybody able to make this game better looking? If you haven't been with RuneScape for its entire journey, getting someone to boot this thing up in 2026 is a hard sell because of how it looks. But you can't argue with its popularity, as it's one of the only MMOs to fight World of Warcraft for the most popular MMO today. RuneScape is an incredibly unique experience, and it's an incredibly unique experiment in the MMO sphere. With no microtransactions and the community voting on everything, this has become one of the best MMOs out today, even if it doesn't look like it at first glance. And for that reason, I'm going to put it into the S tier. Now, you know how I just posed the question, why hasn't anyone made a better looking old school RuneScape? Well, Jagex actually tried to do that with RuneScape 3, the game we're going to talk about next. Ironically, this is the more modern version of RuneScape. But a host of poor decisions, largely centered around combat and monetization, has all but killed this game. The population fell so drastically the developers caved and said they would improve monetization for the game. But probably the biggest problem for this game is that a better version already exists, and it's called Old School RuneScape. Still, the devs are now in the process of removing the most awful parts of this game's monetization, and I respect that. It's going to be interesting to see what kind of an impact this has on the player base size for this game. This is a kind of MMO experiment I wish way more developers would take part in, and I know a lot of them are probably watching to see how this unfolds. For all of these reasons, I'm going to raise RuneScape 3 from C tier to B tier this time. Next up, we have Rift, which launched in 2011. This was a solid entry that a lot of people were excited for, but it surprisingly fizzled out quite quickly. It was good, but it wasn't great. A lot of people talk fondly about the game even today and some of its unique systems, but with all of the better MMOs that were out there, especially right around this time, this game was sandwiched between the launch of Final Fantasy XIV, Elder Scrolls Online, and Guild Wars 2. So its biggest problem was that I and many others never found the time to make it over to Rift to make it my main MMO. And for that reason, the best I can do for this one is put it into the C category. Next up, we have SKYFORGE. This game had decent combat, but outside of that, this was a mess of a game with horrible gameplay and horrible monetization. When I just checked on the population size of this game, it had 0 people online. That's an achievement, and it's no surprise. The monetization and choices they made prior to its launch and after its launch have all been horrible, and for that reason, the best I can do for this game is put it into the F tier. Next up, we have Star Trek Online, launched all the way back in 2010. Man, those few years were a big one for MMO launches. Star Trek Online was always decent, never amazing, but it's definitely one of the more unique entries into the genre. It's not the most thriving MMO in the world, but if you enjoy Star Trek lore or Star Trek stories, you might enjoy this game, especially if you're a fan of sci-fi MMO. This game still has people playing it, it's still reasonably monetized, and it's still getting updates, so I'll go ahead and toss this one into the B tier. Next up, we have Star Wars: The Old Republic, launched in 2011, right in that sweet spot of MMO launches yet again. It was such a great time to be an MMO player right then. This one has a fantastic single-player campaign with a great story. It's got Star Wars and lightsabers, and all around was a great addition to the genre. It did ultimately end up lacking in the group gameplay department when compared to its peers. It's difficult to find other players to do group content with, but the solo content is some of the best of any MMO out there, with branching paths and different endings based on your choices, making it still worth enjoying today if you haven't. It was handed over to a new developer, so now it's basically on maintenance mode, leaving its future in limbo, but they've kept it going so far. The new developers are going to continue to make content for the game. It is still fairly monetized, it's free to play, and if you sub for even a month, it unlocks all of the game's content. So for all of those reasons, the great story, the reasonable monetization, and the fact that it's still getting content today, I'm going to go ahead and place this one into the B tier. Next up, we have TERA, which launched in, you guessed it, 2011 again. This was a gorgeous MMO at the time, best known for its fantastic feeling combat. This game was plagued with a lot of problems in front of the scenes and behind the scenes, and ultimately they ended up turning this into a game you wouldn't recognize today. Between changes to the progression and the monetization, there's really no reason to touch it now. Group content became solo content, leveling became compressed, monetization was cranked through the roof, and updates stopped until it was finally shut down. In its prime, it had a lot of cool ideas, and it was a fun MMO to visit, but what exists now is far from what it was at launch. If you find a server to play on, it might be fun to grind out a few levels for a bit, but it's unlikely this is going to be your main MMO again. So I'm going to go ahead and toss this one into C tier out of respect for what it once was. Next up, one of the newest MMOs on this list, which launched here in the West in 2024, and that's going to be Throne and Liberty. Throne and Liberty is very light on PvE content and heavy on PvP. Combine that PvP focus with the fact that it's got significant pay to win, and you've got the quintessential Korean MMO formula that players have grown very tired of. The game launched to over 300,000 players, but is already sitting at 9,000 players, causing NCSoft to report financial losses for the first time. Still, Throne and Liberty is one of the better, more polished, free MMOs available right now, and it might be worth checking out if you're big on PvP and soft on pay to win. But for me personally, when they decided to make the auction house currency the same as the cash shop currency, I just basically lost interest instantly. For me, pay to win and PvP are oil and water. They just don't mix, and when they do, I'm not going to have a good time. I'm not a wallet warrior, and I don't enjoy fighting wallet warriors. So for that reason, the best I can do for Throne and Liberty is put it into the C tier. Next up, one of the oldest MMOs on this list, Ultima Online, launched all the way back in 1997. This is one of the forefathers of the genre. It's long past its prime now, but it definitely left a mark. There's still thousands of people logging in to play this one every day, which is insanely impressive and a testament to how much it did right. But this is old. It's really old. And it shows in both its gameplay and its graphics. It'd be fun to jump into and play for a few days to relive the nostalgia or to see what everyone was talking about, but this isn't an MMO that I could main in 2026, and for those reasons, I'm gonna go ahead and toss it into the C tier. Next up, we have Warhammer Online, launched in 2008. This was a solid old school entry into the genre, but it was outclassed by a lot of other old school MMOs, and for this reason, it shut down fairly quickly. It tried to carry on the tri-faction war torch previously held by Dark Age of Camelot, but other MMOs would end up doing it better, such as Elder Scrolls Online and Guild Wars 2. You can still play this game on a private server for a trip down memory lane, and it's surprisingly not pay to win, which means it's probably more fun to revisit than a lot of the other MMOs on this list. It's worth noting though that the server performance isn't great, and this game isn't getting updates anymore, so the best I can do is put this one into the C tier. Next up, the most well-known MMO on this list, World of Warcraft. This game launched in 2004, and it's hard to describe the impact it had on the world at the time. Everybody was playing World of Warcraft. Nerds, celebrities, and people you would never expect to touch a video game were logging into this game. Within the first 10 years, it had over 100 million accounts created. No MMOs came close to the success of World of Warcraft in its prime. And while it's far from its prime today, it's still one of the most polished and complete MMOs today, competing for the #1 spot with Final Fantasy XIV and old school RuneScape. It's an old game though, and it's been bleeding players for a long time as a result, but it's hard to dispute the evidence. More people have enjoyed this MMO than any other MMO, and it's still cranking out content with its new expansion Midnight in 2026. This last year has been a pretty contentious one for this game, between the fact that it sold a $90 mount for a limited time, and the fact that they've upended the game's reliance on add-ons, not to mention the one-button rotation. The future of retail WoW has never felt more in disarray, but also more interesting. But one thing's for sure, all of those subscriptions to World of Warcraft is pouring a ton of money into it. And for those reasons, it's still getting massive expansions today, making it a fun game to jump back into every time it releases an expansion. And for that reason, we'll go ahead and keep World of Warcraft in the S tier. It's not a perfect MMO by any means, but because of its budget, it's able to push out more quality content than just about any other MMO out there. Next up, we have Wizard 101. This was kind of a gateway MMO for budding MMO players today. Released in 2008, this game featured a unique type of content that revolved around collecting decks of cards and using those to fight your way through battles. It had farming, fishing, housing, you name it, and it's still got an active player base and getting updates today, though its monetization has been heavily criticized by its fans. It's best to call it free to try, because you essentially have to buy every piece of content that you want to play. A lot of kids grew up playing this MMO and became MMO degenerates because of it. But I never got into it because I think I was a little bit too old to enjoy this one when it launched. So the best I can do is put this one in a C tier. Now, for all of you guys that fast forwarded to the end of the list to see where I placed everything, welcome. Some of these positions might not make sense without the explanation that was attached to it, but regardless, let me know what you think down in the comments below. I just rated something like 40 MMOs, so I don't expect anyone to agree with me on every single one of these. In fact, I fully expect you guys to disagree on one or two or even more, especially the MMO that you're most passionate about. Tier lists are very much subject to opinion, and I weight things very heavily based on monetization. If it's got pay to win, I'm gonna knock it down a level or two for that. If I can't earn the cool cosmetics and I have to buy them in the cash shop, I'll probably knock it down a tier or two for that as well. And for the people that skip to the end of the video, hopefully that helps make sense of some of these rankings. And of course, I value gameplay over graphics, which is why RuneScape made it so high on the list. The recording session for this video has been a long one. My voice is starting to go, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. But let me know what you guys think. And if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane or enjoyed looking at these MMOs to decide which one you want to jump into next, help me out with a like and even subscribe to the channel for more MMO updates. 2026 has some new interesting MMOs that are coming out, and I'll definitely be covering them as they do. Massive shout out to my channel members. If you want to become a member, click the join button down below or the link in the description. If you're not sure what to do next, check out one of these MMO videos popping up on screen right now, and I hope to see you in the next one. And don't forget to check out the sponsor of the video, linked in the description, to grab the Xenomorph and the Predator while they're around.